Hey everybody, Alex the Critic here, and welcome to the latest installment of Cancerous Commentaries, the series where I tear apart a stupid video that I found on the internet. With Thanksgiving coming up, I feel that the best way to celebrate the holiday is by giving thanks to the many leftist creators out there who make videos that are loaded with such stupid arguments that even a complete retard like myself can debunk them. And my way of giving thanks is by responding to one such video. So, which video is on the chopping block today? One by the name of Exposing the Grift Kangmin Lee Got Fired by the Birdman. Now, before we can start responding to the video, we've got to go over all of the relevant background context first.
On October 1st, 2025, a far-right political commentator named Kangmin Lee posted a 7-minute long video to his X account in which he detailed how he'd been fired from his job at a college campus for his political beliefs. This drew the ire of a far-left political commentator and media reviewer named The Birdman, who uploaded a 20-minute long response to Lee where he tried to correct the record about his firing. Did he succeed at this?
I wouldn't be making this video if he did. Let's get things started.
Just desserts. We are gathered here today to laugh at one of the most heinous and bigoted people on the internet losing their source of income.
And I'm sure that you're gonna provide solid evidence for that claim throughout this video, right?
Kangmin Lee, a piece of shit racist, posted a Twitter video announcing his intention to grift on YouTube and other platforms, and I thought it would be funny to watch this video together because this couldn't have happened to a better guy.
And there it is, the dreaded G word. Here's the thing. At the end of Kangmin's video, he explained to his viewers that his plans moving forward were to become a full-time political commentator, and that he would be setting up a Gifts and Go campaign for people to donate money towards if they wanted to help him cover his living expenses while he made this career transition.
I'm going to focus on building a platform where I can speak openly, create content that matters, and continue the sort of work that I love, fighting for what is good, right, and true. I will also be focusing not only on American contemporary politics and culture, but also bridging the gap on what is going on in Korea. But here's the reality. Losing my job means I lost a lot of my income overnight, and while I transition into this new chapter, I do need help covering basic expenses, rent, bills, food, until my content work is sustainable on its own. That's why I've launched a Gifts and Go campaign. If you believe in free speech, if you want to help me continue creating, or if you just want to help support me during this transition, I'd be incredibly grateful. Even if it's just a few dollars, that would mean the world to me.
So, in order to call him a grifter, you'd have to prove that A, he doesn't actually hold the beliefs that he espouses in his videos, which you can't do since those videos hadn't been made at the time of Birdman's response. And B, the Gifts and Go money isn't being spent on Kangmin's living expenses, which you provide no evidence for in this video. In essence, here we have yet another case of grifter simply meaning someone who espouses a viewpoint that I personally disagree with.
Without any further ado.
Hello everyone, my name is Kangmin Lee, and I was just fired from my job for my conservative beliefs.
Right off the bat, he opens this video with a lie. Lee was not fired for conservative beliefs. Lee was fired because he is a racist and a sexist masquerading as a Christian conservative. I'm aware the Venn diagram is nearly one big circle there, but you know what I mean.
Wait, what's the actual lie here? If you believe that the beliefs that Kangmin holds are nearly identical to the beliefs that Christian conservatives hold, then he was fired from his job for expressing his conservative beliefs. Also, keep Birdman's conflation of racist bigots with Christian conservatives in mind, because it will prove him to be a hypocrite later.
Lee is attempting to play the victim in this video, and if you know anything about this 4-foot-tall elf, you know he is full of shit.
You know, for the site that talks a big game about being progressive and tolerant of people of all different shapes, sizes, and viewpoints, it sure is funny how they're often the first ones who will make an insult that denigrates someone's immutable characteristic just because that person holds an opinion that they disagree with. I'm not offended by Birdman's joke or anything, I'm just noting the irony here.
This wasn't about my job performance or my relationships with colleagues. It happened because of the things I've said online and the political and religious views I've shared.
Now we're getting closer to the truth.
But that's exactly what he said at the start of the video. The only thing that changed was the wording of what he said and the added detail that he wasn't being fired for his performance at his job. What kind of refutation is this?
But again, this framing of, "I didn't get fired for my performance," is him trying to paint a narrative that he was fired unfairly. The problem, Kang-min, is that as an employee, you represent your company on and off the clock. If you do something they deem inappropriate, you can be fired for that very reason in each of the 3 states you operate in. Being a racist bigot is usually one of the main reasons people get fired while off the clock. I suppose that because you've gotten away with this for so long that you thought you were immune to this, but welcome to the consequences of your actions. Better late than never.
Believe it or not, I actually don't disagree with what Birdman said here. As someone who champions the freedom of association, I personally believe that business owners should reserve the right to fire their employees for any reason that they want, or even no reason at all. However, 1, you're still allowed to criticize a company for the standards they uphold. Freedom of association does not mean freedom from criticism. 2, why was it necessary to bring up that what happened to Kang-min was illegal? Something being legal does not mean that it's morally good or justifiable. By that standard, slavery must have been okay because it was enshrined in our country's laws for the better part of a century.
Right before I was about to head out to work, I got a call from an executive at my workplace, and he opened with this.
The reason for this call is that we've decided to terminate your contract effective immediately.
Oh.
Beginning today and going forward, you're going to cease all contact with employees and you are not welcome on our campus.
So they told me I was being removed immediately and not to return. The main reason? Because my posts were dehumanizing and derogatory.
What's with the air quotes, Kang-min? Your words are dehumanizing and derogatory. I mean, are these not your tweets?
Ah, finally, some evidence. Let's comb through it and see how solid it is.
Quote, American blacks are the only group that embraces the worst of their community and claims it as their culture. Every group rejects the worst of their communities, but American blacks instead make songs about how vain, degenerate, and proudly hateful they are towards others, end quote. Alright, I don't see anything dehumanizing or derogatory here. Kang-min is merely making an observation about how Black American culture has regressed due to its celebration of the behaviors of the worst members of their ethnic group. The very fact that he specifies American blacks and uses the wording the very worst of their community implies that Kang-min doesn't think that all black people think and act like this. That aside, one of the behaviors he complains about is being proudly hateful towards others. If Kang-min really were some kind of racist bigot, then it's rather odd that he takes issue with other groups of people being racist bigots instead of finding solidarity with them.
Also, didn't you just conflate Christian conservatives with racist bigots not 1 minute ago?
Lee was fired because he is a racist and a sexist masquerading as a Christian conservative. I'm aware the Venn diagram is nearly one big circle there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you don't get to complain about Kang-min speaking in generalities.
Quote, I know you're Indian, but are you really that illiterate? End quote. Well, this tweet is clearly in response to someone else's tweet, as we can see a thin gray line above Kangman's profile, which only appears if a tweet is in response to another. And since Birdman doesn't show us the full context of what he's replying to, there's no way to tell why Kangman said this.
Hell, for all we know, the Indian guy could have been defending pedophilia or something. Even so, this tweet is just an edgy joke about the guy's ethnicity. People tell edgy jokes like this during discussions all the time. Hell, you just got done doing it yourself.
Lee is attempting to play the victim in this video, and if you know anything about this 4-foot-tall elf, you know he is full of shit.
So what? It's alright for you to make fun of someone's immutable characteristic, but when Kangman does it, he's a bigot? Get the fuck out of here with that logic.
Quote, yeah, not shocked that a troon like you, who likes to prey on women in their bathrooms, cannot comprehend being respectful towards women, end quote. This tweet is perhaps the best example Birdman displays, if only because Kangman does use a slur here. Even then, however, he's accusing the guy he's responding to of being a sexual predator who lacks basic respect for women. A strange thing for a supposed bigot to be doing, if you ask me.
Also, once again, this tweet was clearly written in response to another person's tweet, but since Birdman cut out the context of what Kangman was responding to, it's impossible to gauge just how dehumanizing Kangman's tweet was. Anything can sound bad if you edit it a certain way, Birdman.
You've said much, much worse. These were all in the last year.
Wait a minute. You're telling us that you had stronger evidence that you could have shown us to prove your point, but you chose not to? Well, why the hell not? If it's because it might have gotten the video taken down, well, one of those tweets features an uncensored slur, and yet it had no impact on the status of the video. If it's because that would have gotten the video demonetized, so what? You're not a grifter, are you? Surely you wouldn't withhold evidence of bigotry just to keep your own paycheck secured, would you?
It's clear to us that your commentary invokes language that's derogatory and dehumanizing.
The specific example they kept bringing up is when I called women who celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk hags and psychopaths. And apparently, that's unacceptable. What else are they? Calling them psychopaths is mild compared to the depraved gloating over the death of an innocent man.
Strange position to take there, Mr. Lee, when Charlie Kirk himself did exactly what you called these people psychopaths for. I mean, Kirk gleefully asked for a hero to bail out Pelosi's assailant.
If some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like 30 or 40,000 bucks. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
Firstly, Charlie explicitly stated that the bailout would be for the purposes of a conservative journalist asking the assailant questions that would test the mainstream media theory that the attack on Paul Pelosi was politically motivated. This matters because Charlie began his rant by rejecting the claim that a Politico article made, which was that conservatives were to blame for the attack on Paul Pelosi.
Politico says top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are we to blame for that exactly?
Secondly, after Charlie made that comment, which I personally believe to be a joke, he went on to condemn political violence twice, and wish Paul Pelosi a speedy recovery.
I wonder what his bail is. They're going after him with attempted murder, political assassination, all this sort of stuff. I'm not qualifying it. I think it's awful. It's not right. And I want to reiterate, for all the degenerates that are watching that cover our story, we do not endorse political violence. We're a movement of peace and of love and of truth. And we hope Paul Pelosi recovers.
So yeah, you just put words in a dead man's mouth in order to defend the monsters who were celebrating his cold-hearted assassination.
Said clearly that gun deaths were acceptable as long as his political beliefs were upheld.
But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
I don't even understand what's psychopathic about this. Charlie isn't celebrating these gun deaths or encouraging more gun deaths. He's just acknowledging them as an unfortunate consequence of his beliefs. I don't know if you know this, Birdman, but all solutions to all problems are going to yield consequences. To think otherwise is embarrassingly naive. Hell, after making that point, Charlie outlined his solutions for how to tackle the gun violence problem in America.
So then how do you reduce? Very simple. People say, oh, Charlie, how do you stop school shootings? I don't know. How did we stop shootings at baseball games? Because we have armed guards outside of baseball games. That's why. How did we stop all the shootings at airports? We have armed guards outside of airports. How do we stop all the shootings at banks? We have armed guards outside of banks. How do we stop all the shootings at gun shows? Notice there's not a lot of mass shootings at gun shows. There's all these guns. Because everyone's armed. If our money and our sporting events and our airplanes have armed guards, why don't our children?
Where is the psychopathy here? Nothing that Charlie said in that clip was anywhere near as grotesque as saying, I'm glad that someone who has differing political beliefs from mine got his neck blasted open in front of his wife, children, and tens of millions of people, and I hope other people who share that guy's views also get their necks blasted open. It can't be the political belief that is psychopathic, because all Charlie said was that granting people the right to bear arms will help them protect their other freedoms, such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion. You can say that that solution doesn't achieve that end goal, but if the solution is to empower well-meaning citizens, and the end goal is to enable them to lead whatever kind of lives they want, then it's not psychopathic. The last point I want to make before I move on is that Birdman is once again being a total hypocrite. Why? Because in his video on Critical Drinker, and I'm talking about the first one, you know, the one that everyone and their grandmas have already torn to shreds. Birdman lambasted him for putting words in an actress's mouth and causing her to receive harassment because of it.
On one of Drinker's live streams, he attributed a false quote to Isabella Merced about the failure of Madame Web.
Some of the stars of the film have got theories about why that is, and one of them is right here. Isabella Merced? Is that the word? Merced?
Sure. Yeah.
She said it failed for one simple reason. For the same reason that the Marvels or Bird of Prey failed, because the male audience still hides a deep contempt for everything that is starring strong, independent women.
Oh, God. The truth is the truth, I guess.
Sure. I mean, that's definitely the reason Birds of Prey failed, and the Marvels wasn't because they were bad films that no one wanted. For sure.
Isabella was, of course, inundated with hate from parrots that took these quotes at face value because why would grifters lie to them? She then had to come out and deny these clearly false allegations, but by then, the damage was already done. To date, there has been no update, no retraction, no public apology on Twitter from Will Jordan for spreading this quote.
Yet here, he's putting words in Charlie's mouth, which will no doubt cause his family to receive more harassment than they've already been getting. I guess it's alright when you do it, eh, Birdman?
So clearly, you are okay with making fun of someone's death as long as you are the ones doing it.
How exactly is this a joke about George Floyd's death? The punchline here is that Ubisoft failed to gauge the interests of their consumer base, not that George Floyd died.
Also, you're leaving out what actually happened. You didn't just call these people hags and psychopaths. You literally stated that women should be a helpmate and to have their right to vote stripped away. That's what you got fired for, you low IQ piece of shit. Blatant misogyny.
Firstly, Kangman pushing for women to be stripped of their right to vote and to embrace traditional gender roles can't be misogynistic if he believes that such things will improve the mental and spiritual health of women as well as the overall state of society, which women live in. Why would you want to help a group of people that you hate? You can say that they're awful solutions, but you can't say that they're misogynistic because of the intent behind them. Secondly, I don't think the guy who can't even tell what the punchline to a joke is has any right to call anybody else low IQ.
And I just have to ask, do you not realize that you are a Korean? Meaning that if the government decides to strip away the civil rights of citizens, you would be next? Because aside from being a useful attack dog against other minority groups in this country, racist white people don't like Asians either.
What? How does that follow? I don't think that racist white people are the ones running our government. And even if they were, I'm pretty sure that Kangman doesn't want those types of people to be the ones enforcing the changes that he wants to make.
That's because despite your best efforts to paint black people as the perpetrators of anti-Asian violence in this country, it was actually racist white people that committed most crimes against Asians during COVID. Can't per capita your way out of this one.
Even if I accepted the statistics of this study at face value, and I don't, as there's an excellent article by Kenny Zhu of cityjournal.org that goes over the problems with the study's methodology, which I'll link in the description down below if any of you guys are curious about this topic. How does that prove that racist white people are the ones running our government and that they would be the ones implementing Kangman's political changes?
But they didn't care about the context. So what specifically?
Well, how about yesterday when you implied that women shouldn't have the right to vote and that women are hags, miserable people, birthers, and psychopaths?
I didn't call women that.
A blatant lie. Let's put an arrow next to each word your employer said you said.
How about yesterday when you implied that women shouldn't have the right to vote and that women are hags, miserable people, birthers, and psychopaths?
I didn't call women that.
Looks like you said every single one of those things.
Well, Birdman is right. There is a lie being told here, but it's on his end. While Kangman did say that women shouldn't have the right to vote, he didn't say that all women are hags, miserable people, and psychopaths. He said that women who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk were hags, miserable people, and psychopaths, and attributed their behavior to their denial of traditional gender roles.
Aren't you supposed to be a Christian? Isn't not lying like one of the 10 Commandments?
But he didn't lie, because he didn't apply his controversial labels to all women.
Why is it that people that call themselves Christians don't seem to actually follow the Bible and are some of the worst people imaginable?
It's interesting that Birdman brings up Christians tending not to follow the Bible, because Kangman's positions on women's role in society are affirmed by plenty of verses throughout the Bible.
For example, 1 Timothy 2:11-12 says, quote, "Let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet." End quote. Ephesians 5:22-24 says, quote, "Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, his body, and is himself its Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands." End quote.
So, If anything, this whole mess started because Kingman advocates for conventional biblical doctrine.
Oops.
He did. It's very clear. We have evidence of it.
Yeah, you can pull it up. I said that liberal women who dehumanize
No, you didn't
people
say
and
liberal
celebrate
women.
death.
You did not say liberal women. You did not say liberal women.
The context is...
There's no context. Your language...
Do you mind if I can...
I'm going to finish.
Shout out to whoever Lee's boss was. Normally when these kinds of things happen, the employer speaks in HR speak and lets the recently fired get away with saying nonsense. Lee just tried to say he said liberal women. He didn't, and that there was more context to his tweet. There wasn't. This is the kind of person we need in charge of a workplace, one that will protect their employees very strongly and not let people like this get away with murder. Kudos to him.
Firstly, it's very clear that the types of women Kingman was calling hags and psychopaths were liberals. I did not see too many conservative women celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, probably because they were conservative, you dumbass! I'm sure there may have been one or two conservative women who are doing that, but when Kingman is denigrating women who are celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, rejecting traditional gender roles, and turning away from God, it is not unreasonable to assume that the types of women he's talking about are liberals, since those are the types of women that generally share those characteristics. Also, what do you mean we should give Kingman's employer kudos for not letting him get away with murder? All the dude did was share his political opinions on X, which is what everybody else does. Why are you trying so hard to paint him as worse than Hitler for it?
Your language is dehumanizing. You target every kind of identity that's represented. I'm embarrassed that we're just realizing it.
So the context behind that is the thousands upon thousands of videos and tweets and posts of people who were celebrating the assassination of a husband and a father 2 weeks ago. So the context is the sheer number. It was like 80 to 20, 90 to 10. The majority of people celebrating his assassination, someone murdered in cold blood, were women.
Even if that were true, it's not. You think that provides context for you saying women shouldn't have the ability to vote? This guy's a moron.
There's two things that I love about this point. Firstly, Birdman doesn't provide any evidence that women didn't make up the majority of people that celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I mean, to be fair, Kingman didn't provide any evidence for the opposing assertion either, but given that Birdman has been more than happy to provide evidence for earlier arguments he's made in this video, why couldn't he do that here? Second of all, Birdman doesn't even provide a refutation of Kingman's point. He just calls him a moron, as if his conclusion isn't the most reasonable one a person could come to in the wake of all this. What? You don't think that people who openly celebrate the deaths of their political opponents and wish for people with similar views to also be killed should have a say in where our country is headed? Ha! What an idiot. Yeah, disenfranchising people who react to any and all problems with violence is actually good. I mean, I assume that you wouldn't want racist white people who want to bring back slavery to be voted into positions of power, would you, Birdman?
And let's not forget, Kang Min himself uses the death of a father as a punchline, so he's getting mad at people doing something he does himself. You can't make this shit up.
Once again, the punchline to Kingman's joke wasn't that George Floyd died. It was that Ubisoft is a tone-deaf developer. Try again.
Now, these are women who are untethered to their family. They don't have good family lives, right? They have abandoned their families.
It's incredible that he's publicly playing this recording as if it's making him look better.
Well, to be fair, the tweet does have 56,000 likes on it, so at least to his audience, this leaked call did make him look better.
First of all, he's claiming to know that thousands of women on social media don't have children and have abandoned their families. Mind you, this guy is an incel. He couldn't have a family if he wanted to.
Funny funny how he says that Kangman is just assuming things about the lives of these women with no evidence to back his assumptions up, and then immediately assumes that Kangman is an incel, meaning that he can't get laid with a woman no matter how hard he tries, with his only piece of evidence for that claim being an unflattering photo.
He somehow has magical powers and knows the identities of thousands of women on social media. Unbelievably embarrassing.
So, I would have agreed with this overall point of yours if you didn't just get done assuming what Kangman's sex life was like. I mean, if we're meant to disregard everything that Kangman is saying because he's a hypocrite, then by your own logic, I shouldn't be taking anything that you say seriously.
And they don't have children. So
you don't know that. You don't know that.
Okay,
And-
sir.
and
So
to
this is,
suggest- suggest that the answer is to
am I allowed
Second Amendment
to? Am I allowed to
all
finish,
women
or are you
don't
going to keep
vote?
white-splaining to me?
And the anti-woke right-wing bigot immediately resorts to the tactics of those he whines about on Twitter. You cannot make this stuff up.
Alright, so how exactly is Kangman resorting to the tactics that he complains about? Because this tweet talks about people causing problems and then acting like the victim, which isn't what happened here. I mean, Kangman's own employer admitted that neither he nor the university ever knew about Kangman's beliefs.
Your language is dehumanizing. You target every kind of identity that's represented. I'm embarrassed that we're just realizing it. We have a file full of odious things you've said.
Odious, like what else? What else?
Any one of which would be eligible. We would escort them out of the building. My only regret is that we've just discovered this at this point. And that's on this institution.
This is despite the fact that Kangman runs a popular account on X where his posts expressing these views garner tens of thousands of views, likes, and retweets. So how could he have been an open bigot if his bosses were none the wiser to his ideals? Unless, of course, he kept his politics to himself while he was at his job. Furthermore, Kangman's views didn't negatively impact the college that he worked for, since, as far as we know, everything went smoothly up until his bosses discovered his X account. If that's the case, how is Kangman the one causing problems here when his boss is the one firing him for expressing political opinions during his downtime? Kangman isn't even exposing which college is the one firing him, which would definitely hurt their image in the eyes of the far-right audience he has. So, he's actively avoiding doing things that would cause his college more problems, and yet he's the one causing the problem in this situation?
I'm honestly flabbergasted that he's embarrassing himself like this. He's just showing himself to be a hypocrite, whining about racism when he's a wannabe Klan member.
So, again, if Kangman's hypocrisy renders his opinions invalid, then you also shouldn't be taken seriously, Birdman. I mean, you can't exactly go around calling people racist wannabe Klan members when you're the same guy who said this about black people who don't like hip-hop.
Black people kinda like hip-hop. Well, real black people and not the trash pandas that you know.
In case you're a dumbass who needs it spelled out to them, Birdman just called these black people coons, which is a slur for black people, all because they don't enjoy a particular genre of music. He only watered down the slur so that he wouldn't get easily caught being racist. So yeah, if Kangman's opinion about a particular subset of black Americans makes him a racist bigot, then pot meet kettle.
And calling this white-splaining is insane to me, given all his employer said was that he doesn't know the life circumstances of thousands of women on Twitter, which is an objective fact.
You clearly need to clean out your ears, because the reason why Kangman was accusing the guy of white-splaining was because the guy was continuing to repeat his arguments without letting Kangman respond to them nor finish his original point. Plus, I'm pretty sure he was being sarcastic, since the guy chuckled after he said it.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Okay,
And-
sir.
and
So
to
this is,
to suggest that the answer is to
am I
reject
allowed
the
to?
amendment
Am I allowed to
all
finish,
women
or are you
don't
going to keep
vote?
white-splaining to me?
This is the funniest phone call I've ever heard, and I've listened to the entirety of the "Why did you redeem it" call.
Are you serious? Well, comedy is subjective, so whatever you say, man.
We can be done with the conversation. You are no longer permitted on this campus. You are effectively terminated immediately from your employment.
I asked for another example, and he accused me of saying that fat people shouldn't exist. What?
I wonder why anyone would come to the conclusion that you dislike certain people.
Alright, more evidence to dig into. Let's begin.
Quote, genuine question. If they spend so many days walking around at Disney parks, how are they still this fat? End quote. Well, that tweet isn't saying fat people shouldn't exist. He's just making a snide comment about how Disney adults, who, by the way, do not constitute all fat people, stay obese despite exercising so often. Quote, sometimes I think about how universal healthcare wouldn't be too bad until I realized my tax dollars would go into subsidizing gluttonous pigs like this, end quote. Again, this post isn't saying fat people shouldn't exist. Rather, Kangman is arguing that he shouldn't have to shell out his hard-earned money to support people that live a lifestyle he disapproves of.
You know, you really aren't dispelling the stereotype that black people are dumb and don't know how to read.
Quote, Japan builds libraries that look like it's from the Shire. America builds statues of obese black women, end quote. For the third time, this post isn't saying that fat people shouldn't exist, only that statues of fat black women aren't aesthetically pleasing and pale in beauty when compared to statues built by other cultures. You can say this means he doesn't want fat people to be represented in artwork, but to argue that this post is saying that fat people shouldn't exist?
Sorry, I know you like giving reach-arounds, Birdman, but I don't swing that way.
Quote, body positivity is a lie from the devil to make sloth a virtue, end quote. Do I even have to say it? This post is saying that we shouldn't celebrate lifestyles that are destructive to our bodies, not that fat people shouldn't exist.
If I said that we shouldn't enable the delusions of schizophrenics who think that they're talking to Martians, and that we should instead give those people medication to help tame their mental illness, would that be an example of me saying that schizophrenics shouldn't exist? I mean, technically, we should be striving towards the elimination of mental illnesses like schizophrenia, but the way that Birdman is saying it implies that he thinks Kangman wants fat people to be rounded up and executed on the spot, which is nowhere near what he's saying.
Quote, how can someone the size of a car fit in a car, end quote. Okay, this is just a joke Kangman made about somebody's weight.
Considering that you just made fun of him for being short a few minutes ago.
Lee is attempting to play the victim in this video, and if you know anything about this 4-foot-tall elf, you know he is full of shit.
I guess this means that you hate short people. Man, if this is the best evidence you could provide to prove that Kangman is an evil piece of shit, then he's really gotta step his bigotry game up, because this is amateur level shit.
You clearly believe that fat people shouldn't exist.
What?
Correct?
I have never said that. I've never said that fat people should never exist. This is your emotion speaking.
He did not say you said that. He said you clearly believe that.
Is this nigga serious? He didn't say that you said fat people shouldn't exist. He said that you clearly believe that fat people shouldn't exist. Oh yeah, Birdman? And pray tell, what exactly could lead Kingman's employer to that conclusion, huh? Could it be, oh, I don't know, the things he said on X? So yeah, by claiming that the underlying belief behind Kingman's tweets is that fat people shouldn't exist, he is saying that Kingman is saying that fat people should not exist. He's just being more weaselly about it. Also, considering that you critiqued The Critical Drinker and other anti-woke movie reviewers for hiding their bigotry behind a veneer of plausible deniability in your first video on The Critical Drinker.
What this person does is not honest critique. He looks for ways he can jimmy in alt-right political talking points under the guise of being a movie reviewer. And I know his fanbase doesn't want to believe that he is prejudiced against minority groups, but after everything you've seen here, if you're an honest person, you're at the very least asking questions. This is because he's not a film reviewer. He's a political ideologue that complains almost exclusively about mainstream media to push rhetoric. Of course, he'll never come out and say, I don't want to see black people in lead roles, or I'm tired of female protagonists, like The Quartering stupidly did, to maintain the facade of plausible deniability.
It's really funny how you're now defending a nonsensical argument that Kingman's employer made by essentially appealing to plausible deniability.
I mean, dude, if you're going to post literal evidence of someone not saying what you say they said, wait, don't do that. You're only making yourself look bad.
Oh my god, it looks like Birdman gained self-awareness and is giving himself solid advice.
It's very clear that you have a problem with fat people.
So, this new tweet that Birdman is presenting shoots his point in the foot, not just because it is merely a joke about fat people, but also because it is a joke that plays off of what was said in the original post. To quote,
"There's no space for fat people in the public eye anymore, and it's completely linked to an upswell of fascism," end quote.
yeah, the reason why Kingman is saying that there's no space for fat people in the public eye is because they take up too much space. It's a joke. That aside, can we talk about how insane the original post was?
The tweet that Kingman was responding to quoted another tweet where someone complimented some girl named Barbie Ferreria for presumably dropping weight and slimming down her figure. In response to this, Hasidic Judaism takes this to mean that fascists want fat people removed from the public eye? What? The hell does fascism factor into an innocuous post of someone celebrating another person's weight loss journey?
I'm not surprised that Kingman made fun of fat people. I'd make fun of fat people too if this were the stupid shit they were posting. Yet, according to Birdman, this simple joke is clear evidence that Kingman doesn't want fat people to exist. Yeah, sure thing, buddy. Whatever you say.
Dude, there's basically a tweet of you doing, saying, or implying everything you say you don't do, say, or imply.
Which is why you chose to highlight none of those supposed tweets in your video.
These are not conservative beliefs. These are you being a spiteful, hateful little piece of garbage.
So, what exactly differentiates hateful, spiteful, racist bigots from Christian conservatives? Because remember, earlier in the video, you said that their belief systems were nearly identical.
Lee was not fired for conservative beliefs. Lee was fired because he is a racist and a sexist masquerading as a Christian conservative. I'm aware the Venn diagram is nearly one big circle there, but you know what I mean.
So, you clearly think that these two ideologies are one and the same, yet you're now arguing that there are some differences between them? Would you mind highlighting exactly what those differences are?
If you were able
not.
to at least use your faculties of reason.
We have a file full of odious things you've said.
Odious, like what else? What else?
Any one of which would be eligible. We would escort them out of the building. My only regret is that we've just discovered this at this point. And that's on this institution.
Okay, so I don't understand what beliefs that I hold, because I don't dehumanize women. I have talked many times on my platform about how women are incredible, that their telos, which means design in Greek, is to birth life.
This man's IQ is so low, it's almost as tall as he is.
Yeah, just keep making those derogatory jokes, Birdman. That'll show those anti-woke bigots not to denigrate immutable characteristics. Wait a minute.
How is it that you don't understand what you just said is dehumanizing, Lee?
Probably because you haven't properly explained how any of the past tweets you've shown us thus far are dehumanizing.
It's apparent that you don't know what the word dehumanize means, so let's put it on the screen.
Oops, looks like I spoke too soon. Let's listen to Birdman's explanation.
As you can see, to dehumanize in this context is to demean a person's individuality. If a woman doesn't want to be a birther, you think they are not fulfilling some arbitrary purpose, which would also automatically dehumanize infertile women.
But if you believe that being a birther is a morally good purpose to serve, then it makes sense for Kingman to demean women who choose not to be birthers. Let me put it to you like this, Birdman. If a woman chooses to be a rapist, you wouldn't want to celebrate that life choice, would you? Some lifestyle choices deserve to be demeaned. I realize that Birdman's argument is that women shouldn't be shamed for choosing not to be birthers, but his only argument as to why is that Kangman's moral system is arbitrary. Here's the thing though. Even if I grant that argument, the same exact thing is true of Birdman's moral system. If a woman chooses not to have children, Birdman thinks that they're fulfilling an arbitrary purpose of do whatever you want, queen. Also, how does Kangman's position on women dehumanize infertile women? Does Birdman not realize that children can be adopted, or that there are other ways to nurture a family that don't involve child rearing? I swear, this dude is a moron.
You also very clearly stated women should have their right to vote stripped away, which would further disenfranchise them by removing their ability to express their individuality in the democratic process.
I refer you to my last point.
And that's a very important role in civilization. I've said that multiple times. I said they're empathetic, they're compassionate, they're great nurturers and caregivers. That's what I've said. I've also said that men need to step up. I've never said that men are better than women or women are better than men. I've never said that fat people should never exist. That's absurd. All I've said is that they should take care of their bodies and that they should steward the bodies that God has given them, right? So
I'm not interested in this debate.
And you see, no matter how much I try to reason, this is how liberals think. They don't value diversity of thought or the free marketplace of ideas.
Holy irony, Batman. How is it that in one breath you claim liberals don't believe in the marketplace of ideas, but in the next get upset that people exercise their freedom of speech by laughing at the death of Charlie Kirk?
Maybe because freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences or criticism, retard.
Besides the fact that you literally do this yourself, that's what the marketplace of ideas looks like, you flaming hypocrite. It's not just pointing and laughing at the left, it's also pointing and laughing at the right.
Firstly, thank you for finally showing us a tweet where Kingman joked about the death of George Floyd. With this tweet on hand, let me now explain why joking about this event is not morally equivalent to joking about this event. See, George Floyd was a career criminal whose death was the result of an overdose that was exacerbated by his resisting of a lawful arrest by officers. He contributed nothing positive to society. So while I don't think that he deserved to die, I also don't think that joking about his death is beyond the pale. Charlie Kirk, on the other hand, was a hard-working family man whose death came as a result of him being shot in the neck by a deranged lunatic. And why was he shot in the neck, you ask? For trying to engage in the marketplace of ideas. You know, the thing that Birdman claims to care oh so much about? Yeah, joking about these two events is not morally equivalent. And the fact that you think they are is not only disingenuous, but flat out disgusting. Secondly, Kangman isn't just getting laughed at for what he posted. He's also getting fired from his job and barred from entering the college that he worked at. The marketplace of ideas doesn't involve permanently shutting out ideas that we don't like. I know that you're trying to call Kangman out for not actually believing in the marketplace of ideas, but by your own logic, you should be outraged that he's losing his job over things he said on X. That is, unless you don't actually believe in the marketplace of ideas and are instead cynically appealing to the concept in order to appear as morally superior to the chuds, in which case, what makes you any different from Kangman?
You bitches are the snowflakes now, crying when people do to you what you've been doing to them for years.
What we've been doing to y'all for years? What in God's name are you blabbering about, Birdman? For the past decade and a half, it's been conservatives who've bore the brunt of cancel culture. We're the ones who constantly get fired from our jobs for our opinions. We're the ones who constantly get deplatformed from social media for our opinions. We're the ones who are getting murdered and attacked in the streets for merely trying to argue our ideals with our opponents. What kind of alternative universe did you step out of where conservatives have been the ones running society? And more importantly, how do I get there? Because that seems like the kind of place I'd want to live in.
You unironically use the term white-splaining, for fuck's sake. You love white dick. Why are you complaining now that you're the one taking the back shots?
And now he's making fun of gay people? That's very dehumanizing of you, Birdman. Anyways, I've already explained why Kangman said the guy was white-splaining, so let's just move on.
Besides, this is literally you celebrating people being fired from their jobs for expressing their freedom of speech, meaning you should also be laughing at yourself right now. I'm telling you, there's literally a tweet from this guy for everything.
I do have a response to this point, but I'll save it for later because I think it'll hit much harder then.
They will fire you, destroy your life, and in extreme cases like we saw with Charlie Kirk, kill you and dance on your grave if you dare hold any right-wing opinions. To be an open conservative today in America still means to be a social pariah. Companies and institutions will punish you without question.
That's because your beliefs have no place in civil society.
Wait, so you're perfectly fine with the disenfranchising and murdering of people who hold what you think are far-right political beliefs? Because remember, Kangman didn't just talk about conservatives being fired for their beliefs in that clip. He also talked about conservatives being murdered for their beliefs.
They will fire you, destroy your life, and in extreme cases like we saw with Charlie Kirk, kill you and dance on your grave if you dare hold any right-wing opinions.
Which Birdman didn't explicitly disavow. Well then, on what grounds are you against Kangman suggesting that we disenfranchise women? It can't be that you have a problem with the concept of subjugation itself. Rather, your objection seems to be about who we subjugate. Which, mind you, I don't have a problem with. Well, except for the murder part. I don't believe that we should murder people for having opinions that differ from ours, but that's because I'm a human being, not a demon. The problem here is that Birdman has yet to explain why we ought to subjugate far-right commentators instead of women.
You openly advocate for the subjugation of 50% of the population.
And you openly advocate for the subjugation of 5% of our population. So, what's your point?
You are a flaming racist.
Again, making an edgy joke about race doesn't make you a racist.
You think the colonization and conquest of people is okay, except when those people being conquered are white people.
Well, that's because A, the conquest of Native Americans happened centuries ago, and yet is being used retroactively to argue for the dismantling of the United States government as we know it. And B, the Muslim immigrants that are currently flooding into the UK are bringing nothing positive to British society, despite the native populace being told that they're simply refugees looking for a better life. Thanks to them, crime has gone up, poverty has gone up, and speech laws are being altered to prevent the native populace from criticizing them. Like, at least the Pilgrims developed the land that they conquered and built a sustainable form of representative governance that would lay the groundwork for our current federal government. What the hell are the Muslim refugees adding to Great Britain? Acid attacks? Grooming gangs? Yeah, real winners there. So yeah, I hope that explains why Kangman is more outraged about what's going on to the British than he is about what happened to the Native Americans.
You are obsessed with black people.
Firstly, note how several of these tweets are days, if not months, apart from one another, suggesting that Kangman tweets about things other than black people. I could kinda grant this point if you showed me a screenshot of tweets that were only minutes or hours removed from one another, but even a cursory scroll through Kangman's X feed suggests that he isn't as obsessed with black people as you make him out to be. Secondly, even if he were, you have built your entire career off of responding to every single CinemaSins video known to man. You don't get to knock anyone else for being obsessed with a particular topic.
You refer to trans people as troons.
I like how, when it came to all of the other minority groups, Birdman lambasted Kangman for dehumanizing and disenfranchising them, but when it came to trans people, Kangman's greatest sin against them is calling one of them a slur. Way to be accidentally disrespectful to trans people, Birdman.
I wouldn't want you at my place of business either, and I think any job you land in the future should be made aware of your positions on these things.
He says, as he highlights a benign fat joke as one of his signature pieces of evidence that Kangman is unfit to be in polite society.
They have a right to know what kind of person they are employing.
Well, Kangman never said that they didn't. He just said that it's unfair that conservatives will get fired from their jobs for being open about their beliefs.
Your inherent biases will affect how you interact with your colleagues and potential customers.
Not necessarily. Kangman's own employer admitted that neither he nor the university were aware of any of Kangman's biases.
Your language is dehumanizing. You target every kind of identity that's represented. I'm embarrassed that we're just realizing it. We have a file full of odious things you've said.
Odious, like what else? What else?
Any one of which would be eligible. We would escort them out of the building. My only regret is that we've just discovered this at this point. And that's on this institution.
Which suggests that he kept his opinions to himself and didn't go blabbering about them on any place other than X. I mean, what? You're telling me that Kangman was running around his college campus ranting and raving about how women need to be raped and murdered and his employers didn't know about it until now? Bullshit.
But I believe in speaking honestly about my values. I've tried to be respectful while also being direct.
Ah, yes. Look at this very respectful tweet.
You do know that respect is earned and not given, don't you, Birdman? If someone's living a lifestyle that you wholeheartedly disapprove of, then of course you're not gonna respect them. But even if we ignore that, how does making one off-color joke prove that you treat everyone that you disagree with disrespectfully?
Of course, I tend to be sarcastic and incorporate humor in my posts, but apparently that's become grounds for dismissal.
Whoa. Did Kangman just make the point that I got done making, which Birdman then left in his video? But it completely destroys the point he was just making. Ay caramba, this guy is something else.
I don't think being conservative or having strong religious Christian convictions should cost someone their livelihood.
But you do think opposing positions to yours should cost someone theirs. So why are we supposed to feel sympathy for you again?
Hey, remember that point I told y'all I was gonna make later? Yeah, I'm gonna make it now. You can believe that certain types of speech should yield consequences if they're expressed, while also believing that your speech doesn't fall under that criteria. You yourself believe this, Birdman, because earlier in the video, you advocated for people with far-right beliefs to be ostracized from society.
They will fire you, destroy your life, and in extreme cases like we saw with Charlie Kirk, kill you and dance on your grave if you dare hold any right-wing opinions. To be an open conservative today in America still means to be a social pariah. Companies and institutions will punish you without question.
That's because your beliefs have no place in civil society.
So you're either a hypocrite or a moron.
You think being a Christian makes you special and that you should get to say the heinous shit you do without repercussion? No, it's fuck around and find out time, dipshit. You said it yourself. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences.
Sure, but the question is, which types of speech should yield consequences when expressed? You clearly believe that Kangman's speech falls under that criteria, but you've yet to explain why.
It is possible for someone to hold beliefs that you disagree with, and that person not be a crazy, hateful person.
Oh, I agree. Unfortunately, that doesn't apply to you because you are a hateful, crazy person.
First off, that's just another edgy joke. And second off, does Birdman not realize that the joke relies upon Kangman appreciating the values of a group of people that he supposedly hates? Man, for an open bigot, I'm surprised at how accepting and tolerant Kangman is.
This is what grifting looks like, people. Blatant lying and hypocrisy because he's panicking and needs to fleece people of their money, so he LARPs as an innocent Christian being persecuted for his Christian beliefs instead of being fired for saying women shouldn't have the right to vote.
Okay, well, wanting to strip women of their right to vote falls in line with biblical doctrines, so I don't see where the lie is. Plus, Kangman's beliefs being more extreme than he let on doesn't change the fact that his beliefs are what got him fired. For a guy who will pull up the dictionary to define certain terms, I'm shocked that Birdman doesn't understand what the word lie means.
Like, think about that for a second. He's saying he doesn't value a woman's opinion, so how could he ever work with women at a workplace? His positions necessitate not valuing his own colleagues' input.
Again, not necessarily. Thinking that a group of people shouldn't have the right to vote doesn't mean that you'd disregard their opinions entirely. It just means you don't think their opinions should dictate what direction your country goes in. I mean, Kangman never said that women should be forced to be caregivers and childbearers. He just said that those roles would bring them more fulfillment. So obviously, he isn't inherently opposed to women being in the workforce. Where is this coming from?
Even worse, what if he has a female boss? He clearly stated women shouldn't be in positions of power.
Political power, retard!
This nut shouldn't be at anyone's company.
Birdman, you've gotta stop beating yourself up like that. It's not good for you.
I just wish that they at least tried to have a conversation with me before viewing me and firing me as a derogatory, dehumanizing bigot. They don't even know what it is that I believe, but as you can see, they chose to take things out of context to create a fake version of me.
Oh, I see you're also a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. In that case, I have a scene which perfectly encapsulates how I view your opinions.
The high-end community is... The high-end community is... It's a tight-knit group. The high-end community is a very tight-knit...
Dude, you have years of hateful, spiteful, bigoted posts on social media. Your boss literally said they have a file of things you said.
We'll look through all of these tweets in a moment. Let's just hear out what Birdman's overall point is first.
You arguing that the things you publicly post aren't really what you actually believe? That ought to concern your bigoted followers because they're taking you at your word. In any case, you're lying one way or the other.
Or maybe he just doesn't think that his opinions are as horrible as you and his boss think they are. Ever considered that possibility? Anyways, let's get into the tweets.
Quote, gays should not be able to adopt nor purchase babies through surrogacy, end quote. Well, he's just advocating for a policy, which isn't inherently spiteful or bigoted.
I mean, hypothetically, if there was a law allowing proven serial killers to adopt children, you'd oppose that, wouldn't you?
Quote, gays adopt baby boys for this very reason. Gay adoption should be illegal, end quote. And this tweet was in response to a tweet from another user where they spotlight a story in which a gay couple adopted a 3-year-old boy and then raped him to death. So, in this scenario, the man who's horrified by this news story and wants to implement an admittedly silly solution is the one in the wrong here, not the gay couple that raped a 3-year-old to death.
Are we gonna have to send the FBI to check Birdman's hard drive?
Quote, this happened with Stop Asian Hate too. While Asians online were busy incessantly insisting that the violence from blacks were just isolated incidents with no racial motives, blacks justified the violence against Asians, saying that Asians deserved to be killed, robbed, and beaten, end quote. So first off, this tweet was in response to another tweet from Kingman, and there's more to the tweet that you aren't showing, so there's additional context to what's being said here that you stripped from us, meaning that you're being disingenuous in your presentation of his opinion. Second off, even if I take Kingman's tweet at face value, it would only be spiteful and hateful if what he was saying was inaccurate, which you have yet to prove it is, save for flashing one flimsy study at us. Third off, isn't Kingman defending all Asian people with this tweet?
Why would this racist Korean give a shit if Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, or other such Asian people are getting attacked by blacks? What kind of bigot is this?
Quote, it was almost hilarious that they thought the whole white supremacy is causing blacks to attack Asians narrative would work, end quote.
I refer you to my last point.
Quote, it's a power trip for insecure blacks, end quote. Again, this tweet was clearly written in response to something, but we're not shown what the original tweet said, so it's impossible to discern what phenomena Kingman is describing here.
Even then, he's talking about insecure blacks, meaning that he has to think that there are black people out there who aren't insecure. Otherwise, why would he make the distinction?
Quote, using the N-word is not child abuse. Are you retarded? Blacks use it all the time. Let us know when you decide to join the rest of us in reality, end quote. Once again, this tweet was written in response to another person's tweet, and since Birdman won't show us what Kingman's responding to, it's nearly impossible to gauge whether this tweet is dehumanizing or not.
We don't even know which N-word he's talking about, and there is a difference. The hard R is the socially unacceptable slur, while the soft A is the socially acceptable variation, typically meaning friend or brother.
Quote, transgenderism is a national threat to public safety and our children. It permits men to invade little girls' bathrooms, men to pummel girls in sports, and melts the brains of troons to the point they target, shoot up, and rape children. End quote. So putting aside that, for the millionth time, there's more context to this tweet that Birdman cut out. I don't even see what the problem is. All of these things are true. You can't be a bigot if the things you're saying about a community are overwhelmingly true.
Even if you disagree with his sentiments about the trans community, Kingman is advocating to protect the rights and dignity of women. So, how does that make him a misogynist? What? He hates women, and yet he wants to pass laws which will shield them from people who he thinks are predators? That makes no sense!
Quote, and you're a lowlife faggot, end quote.
Oh no, is this nigga really defending Destiny? Yes, for those of you who don't know, the Omniliberal is Destiny's X handle. Birdman, you are aware that Destiny admitted to having child pornography on his computer and then lied about why he had it, aren't you?
He says earlier in the messages that he doesn't know what to do with the material, and then a couple messages later, he changes his mind and claims his lawyer told him to keep it.
This message he sent me was, 1, I don't even know 100% of her age was legitimately less than 18 when these were taken.
Oh well, fair enough then. I was only 75% sure she was a minor, so... I mean, like, he's like, I'm a gambling man. I'm a gambling man. He's gambling on his life. He's gambling on his life on fucking 9-to-1 odds. Want redemption, Steven? Go to the police tomorrow and give them everything you have. I have nothing to give to them. That's strange, because you told Willie Mack's show that you were saving stuff to hand over to the police because you didn't want to hand over nothing in the event of a criminal investigation, but now you're saying that you have nothing to hand over, full stop. Crazy. It's crazy how the story just totally changes after you got publicly exposed for child porn possession. Crazy how it works like that.
Remember, the only reason they even found the Rose person was because I posted the pics in chat to bait them into looking. Seems pretty stupid to do that if I thought she was 17, huh?
Yeah, it would be stupid. Probably shouldn't have fucking done it then, you retard. I always like it when people say stuff like this. I gave Kiwi Farms all the information they needed to discover that I was in possession of CP. Pretty stupid of me to do that. Yeah, it was. That's literally what happened. That is a fact. This is not a hypothetical scenario. That is literally what you did.
Rose sent him. Her boyfriend was recording these on Skype calls. That's absolutely insane to think about him doing all of this if she was 17. He's describing and acknowledging that he has CP. I blatantly asked...
First of all, that's not even... The message is literally that I seriously don't think that this is that, number one. Number two, again, you don't know exactly what this video is because he didn't, because I think some people think that I'm just like sending him fucking child porn, okay? I don't know if he implied that in the first video, if some people are just running with that explanation or whatever, but again, for reasons that will be very clear, and whenever the fuck my court case is over, I can talk about this a little bit more.
This is a classic Destiny statement. Indians fall for this. The Indians would fall for this straight away. If you fell for this, if you don't understand what he did here, you're Indian. If you're a white man, you'd notice that he never actually admits that the material he sent to Willie Mack's show wasn't of a sexual nature. He just says that it's possible that it wasn't, which means that it was, because otherwise he'd just say that. He's going to pretend like he can't because of the court case. He cannot publicly say that he's not a pedophile in possession of child pornography because the court case, you know, his lawyer said, never ever publicly say that you're not a pedophile. If you publicly say that you're not a child sex offender, you're fucked. You're going to prison.
It's funny, because in Birdman's response to Aristocratic Utensil's video on him, he denied Utensil's accusation that using a clip of Destiny making an argument that Birdman agreed with showed Birdman's hand as a leftist.
Man, him trying to play up the enlightened centrist gimmick, and then he uses a clip of a deranged anti-conservative who Drinker himself body-slammed on Twitter just a few days ago. Oh, the timing is just beautiful.
And I'm begrudgingly agreeing with what's being said. That's one of the secondary themes in this video, that a broken clock is correct twice a day. Something you're sure to miss again when a certain streamer appears in this video.
Gotcha. So, you don't like Destiny, and implied that he's comparable to fucking Nazis, and yet you parrot his talking points and will defend him from criticism and mockery at every turn? Whatever you say, dude. Whatever you say. Also, you yourself called black people who don't like hip-hop coons. So by your own logic, you are dehumanizing, spiteful, and hateful.
Quote, women serving in the military is a sign of a dying civilization. It's not a sign of progress, it's a sign of decay, end quote. Oh no, Kingman doesn't want women to be sent to the front lines so that they can die horribly in a war, and in fact views it as a sign of societal decay that we willingly put women in such a vulnerable position. What a misogynist?
I take it back. I now understand why Birdman avoids providing evidence for his claims. It's because most of the evidence that he provides doesn't actually prove what he says it proves.
Because having a conversation and trying to reach a place of understanding is hard. And it's easy, instead, to dismiss and fire someone who disagrees with you as a racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, everyphobic monster.
Let's go through these new tweets.
Quote, just landed back in America. As soon as I got off my flight, the first thing I was greeted by is black women screaming at everyone at the airport. Lovely, end quote. What exactly is racist about this tweet? Kingman's merely describing a negative experience he had in an airport that just happened to involve black women.
If I post a tweet complaining that a black man cut me off in traffic, does that mean I hate all black people?
Quote, people who cannot speak English should not be allowed to vote in America, end quote. Well, English is the official language of this country and is the one spoken by the overwhelming majority of people. If you lack the faculties to even explain what your political goals are to the people you share a country with, or hear out what other people's political goals are, then it would make sense not to let you dictate what direction our country goes in, because you've displayed an unwillingness to assimilate into our culture.
Letting America-hating foreigners have a say in which direction the country goes sounds like political suicide to me. Besides, Kingman isn't saying that every immigrant that moves to America fails to understand or read English, just that people in general who cannot speak or read English shouldn't be allowed to vote. So, how is this xenophobic?
Quote, no one's looking. Quick, deport all of the illegals, end quote. Again, that's not xenophobic. That's just a joke urging the government to enforce the immigration laws that its citizens support. If they didn't, the laws wouldn't have passed.
Also, considering that you just appealed to the law to justify Kingman's firing...
But again, this framing of I didn't get fired for my performance is him trying to paint a narrative that he was fired unfairly. The problem, Kangmin, is that as an employee, you represent your company on and off the clock. If you do something they deem inappropriate, you can be fired for that very reason in each of the 3 states you operate in.
It's a little strange how you're now saying that something being legal doesn't make it good.
Quote, eliminate the H-1B visa program and deport all the illegals immediately, end quote. Once again, Kingman's asking the government to enforce its immigration laws, which is not inherently xenophobic. Also, we don't know why he wants the H-1B visa program to be eliminated, as the tweet doesn't explain his reasoning for that position, and you don't provide any further tweets of him discussing the matter. So without that context, it's impossible to tell if this tweet is racist or not.
I'm beginning to think that Birdman just plucked these tweets out at random without reading them.
Quote, "Women are more emotional, get jealous easily, and try to destroy the reputation of any woman who receives more attention. These tendencies are not recipes for a lasting friendship, but great for creating lasting grudges and drama." End quote. I don't get it. Everything Kangman's saying here is true. Hell, 90% of the drama from the art and slideshow commentary communities have been caused by petty, neurotic, and spiteful women.
Like, I'm sorry that this is how women choose to act, but noticing these behaviors and then criticizing them doesn't make you a misogynist.
Quote, "Much like how you're a girl, I'm LeBron James." End quote.
Wow, what a harmful joke to make to somebody whom you believe to be living out a harmful mental delusion. Truly, this sort of spite and vitriol is worthy of being the cause of you losing your job.
Quote, "I know I'm stating the obvious here, but fatherlessness produces gay, effeminate men." End quote.
Ew, Birdman is defending niggas wearing dresses? I know I was joking before, but maybe he really is gay, and his tough guy persona is his way of lying to himself about it.
They chose to treat me like some violent terrorist that's not allowed on their property, or to contact any of their employees anymore. They are more angry with me calling out garbage behavior than the garbage behavior itself.
This is why you're not welcome, Mr. Lee. You are not taking responsibility for your own actions.
What do you mean? He spent this entire video admitting to what his views are and defending them from not just his employer, but all of his detractors.
You don't see why what you do is wrong, and that shows you are not mature enough to work for someone's company.
Well, you'd have to prove that any of the things he said are wrong and demonstrate immaturity, which you have still failed to do, so I can just disregard this point.
You are a child with a victim's mentality, which is ironic because you say exactly that about black people every other week.
Oh God, more supposed evidence. Alright, let's read this one.
Quote, "Professional victim. You're not getting backlash because you're black. It's because you support blackwashing Japanese art and you think white VAs can't voice POC characters while your whole career is built on voicing non-black characters." End quote. I hate to sound like a broken record here, but this tweet was obviously written in response to something. But since Birdman cut that context out of his screenshot, it's difficult to tell what point Kangman's trying to make. Maybe the person he was arguing with had every right to claim victimhood status. Given the arguments Kangman makes about hypocrisy and race-gating certain roles, I doubt it, but maybe they were. I don't know.
That aside, the obvious difference here is that Kangman is an actual victim. He's losing his main source of income, which is way worse than just dealing with backlash from anonymous weirdos for a take you posted on X for expressing opinions that are far less egregious than what it seems the original poster was expressing. And he's not even being given the opportunity to appeal the decision. In essence, he's being disenfranchised for being an open conservative. You can say that he deserves to be fired for expressing the types of beliefs that he did, but until you can justify why you think that's the case, then objectively speaking, he is a victim. Unlike the other person, who seems to be crying about how their actions yielded proportional consequences.
You lie and pretend that you're not who we all know you to be. You're asking for a conversation with people that you denigrate and shit on.
To be fair, Birdman does have a point here, though it's only because I believe that there is no talking to leftists like him anymore, and that anybody who tries to insist otherwise is either embarrassingly stupid or naive. Anyways, let's read the new tweets that he's put up.
Quote, "Oh, that's interesting. Out of more than 24.2k tweets, I only have one mentioning Indians. And I didn't blame them for anything. All I did is point out that a video in Norway contains mostly black and brown people. Seems like you're the one playing victim, you weasel." End quote. Don't know how this is supposed to be hateful or dehumanizing, given that he seems to be correcting someone who's under the belief that he was shitting on Indians.
Would be nice to see the full context behind these tweets so that I can come to an informed opinion about his words, but I digress.
Quote, "I didn't know you hated Indians this much," end quote.
Okay, is Kangmin Lee a bigot or not? Because these past two tweets have only shown him defending Indians.
Quote, "Trump's new H-1B fee has some Indians panicking, but it's actually good for India. Stops brain drain, keeping India's best and brightest at home. They should be happy, but the reason they're upset is because they view America as a place to invade, conquer, and exploit." End quote. So this tweet is just Kangman claiming that the Indians applying for H-1B visas aren't the best and brightest of their country who are looking to use their talents to uplift and enrich American culture, but are rather low-skill workers attempting to steal jobs from Native American workers by exploiting an immigration loophole while contributing nothing positive to American society.
I mean, if you think that his assessment is inaccurate, you're more than welcome to argue the point, but you can't just flash his take up on the screen and expect me to scream, "Oh my god, what a horrible monster!"
Quote, "India overtakes Japan to become fourth largest economy. So what is stopping India from becoming like this? Indians." End quote. Well, India is a corrupt, desolate third world hellscape, and its inhabitants are Indians, hence the name, so where's the bigotry here?
If I see a blind man drive a car off a cliff, and then I say, "This happened because the blind man couldn't see the road," does that mean that I hate blind people and I want them to be murdered? This is fucking ridiculous. We're almost done with the video, and Birdman has only managed to provide one, maybe two pieces of evidence of Kangman's hypocrisy/bigotry.
You're not owed a conversation. You were an employee. That means you do what is asked of you. You assume that because you have a lot of bigots that follow you on Twitter that you are hot shit, until hot shit actually showed up and told you to get the fuck off the premises.
Again, that's a good point. Not the bigotry part, the employer part. I just hope that he has that same attitude towards the people who were celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Considering that he heavily implied that he would be fine with the deaths of his political opponents, I'd say the jury's out on that one.
Now you're begging for people to save you because you couldn't be normal.
Are you suggesting that Kangman shouldn't be able to launch a Give Send Go campaign to support himself while he finds a new job? Because that would kind of spit in the face of your whole subjugation is wrong argument.
You can't call out garbage behavior while being a garbage person.
Why does Birdman keep gaining the self-awareness to criticize himself every so often? It's really bizarre.
They're more angry at me, calling people celebrating Charlie's assassination hags and psychopaths, than they were at the very demons who celebrated Charlie's assassination.
This attempt at grifting is pathetic. Once again, your boss pointed out multiple things you said as the reason for your firing. You didn't just call people hags. You said women shouldn't have the ability to vote, you fucking clown.
Okay, that still doesn't change the fact that Kingman's comments about the women who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk were part of the reason why he got fired. Plus, Kingman's point was more so about moral condemnation, which your counter doesn't address. Guys, this university is implicitly defending the women who celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk because they fired me for speaking out against them, which is evil. Oh yeah? Well, you said that these celebrations were a good reason for why women shouldn't be able to vote, and you also made a few jokes about fat people, and you complained about black women who were being a public nuisance at the airport. Like what? These two things are not anywhere near as bad as one another.
You are also guilty of making light of someone's death, dipshit, and you yourself believe that people who do that should be fired. So why are you upset? You ordered this meal, now eat it.
Again, just because you believe that some types of speech should yield consequences if they're expressed doesn't mean that you aren't allowed to draw the line somewhere. Either explain why making fun of George Floyd's death is morally equivalent to making fun of Charlie Kirk's death, or get the fuck out of my face.
So what now? Well, I know some of you have noticed that I've been absent from making videos and content for almost 2 years now, and that's true, and I sincerely apologize for my absence.
Let's cut the shit. You stopped posting on YouTube because nobody was watching the trash you produced. You're not sorry for not uploading. You have 6 videos in 4 years. What you meant to say was, I failed at grifting the first time, please give me another chance. At least that would be honest, Christian.
And surely you're going to provide evidence for this claim, aren't you? Because having a sporadic upload schedule that yielded poor results doesn't mean that the opinions you expressed in those videos were insincere and that you were only expressing them in the hopes of getting clicks and money. Where the hell did all of that come from? If Kingman had a job, then it makes sense that he didn't have as much free time to devote to making videos, which do take more effort than typing out a few words on a keyboard. So where's the evidence for this supposed lie? Also, you're doing this for views and money. Otherwise, why would you upload your videos to a public platform? I'm not saying that makes any of your arguments wrong, I'm just demonstrating why calling someone a grifter is fucking retarded.
I would post on X in my free time from time to time, but I wanted to live a more normal life for a while off the internet. I was struggling financially and I tried to make money in other ways by working other jobs. I also spent time in counseling, trying to get right with God, because I realized I had been living a life of sin as a hypocrite while publicly espousing Christian conservative values. I even tried pivoting into other career paths to see if that's where God was leading me, but it seems God had other plans. I believe God is using this to push me into what I was already being prepared for: full-time content creation and public speaking. Sharing truth, building a community that isn't afraid to stand firm. If you remember 4 years ago, this is actually the second time I've been fired from my job for my social media posts.
And apparently he hasn't learned his lesson yet, like the problem child that he is.
Okay, why did you include the clip of Kingman going on about how he went to counseling to get right with God? You could have just cut to him saying that he's been fired for his beliefs before, and then included your piffy little comeback.
Also, if calling someone whom you believe to be engaging in sexually immoral acts a whore is grounds for you being fired from your job, then I have to wonder how the hell you've stayed on YouTube all this time, given all the edgy jokes, derogatory comments, and borderline threats of violence that you've made throughout your career.
Case in point.
Well, unfortunately, This is my realm, Mr. Lee. You've been ducking the smoke with me ever since I pulled your card last year, but now you've decided to try grifting on my platform. Well, guess what? That means your ass is grass, because I will be sticking my size 12 so far up your ass, you're gonna be spitting up Jordan logos until you inevitably get demonetized on this platform. So, be seeing you.
Yeah, Spoonie, you want to go ahead and summarize my thoughts on Birdman's closing statement here?
Real gay, sissy gay, 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 sissy gay, gay, butt sex, astroglide, glory hole, balls, teabag, chung.
So first off, Birdman has still not explained what exactly the grift here is. Someone having a differing belief from yours does not mean that they are insincere about that belief, dumbass. Second off, in the time since Birdman has uploaded this video, he has yet to make another video shitting on Kangman, despite the fact that Kangman has uploaded both shorts and videos to his YouTube channel since coming forward about his firing. So oopsie, there went that threat. Third off, the exchange between the two of them that Birdman hyped up actually makes Birdman look bad. Let me explain.
The exchange began with Kangman poking fun of Birdman for calling him racist over his comments concerning the video game Assassin's Creed Shadows. Those comments being that Ubisoft offended the citizens of Japan by making an ahistorical, non-Japanese character the protagonist of a game that's set in feudal Japan, despite claiming that their game is historically accurate.
I don't know how complaining that Asian representation is being shelved in favor of black representation makes you an anti-black racist. As if Japanese people expecting to be properly represented in pieces of media that are set in their country are somehow anti-black. I guess if I made a movie about Mansa Musa that I claimed was historically accurate, but I casted a Hispanic person to play the title role, you couldn't complain about it, because that would mean that you hate Hispanic people, huh, Birdman?
Anyways, Birdman responded to him by suggesting that he was gonna make a video on Kangman next, to which Kangman accused him of hypocrisy by arguing that Birdman was only going after larger accounts like his and the Critical Drinkers in order to pull in as many views as possible. Birdman attempted to refute him by providing the Urban Dictionary definition of grifter, to which Kangman responded by pointing out that the dictionary definition of the word would encompass the behaviors that Birdman constantly exhibits, those being cherry-picking videos and posts from someone to paint them as worse than they are in order to get views on your videos. Birdman responded to this by asking Kangman to define the word woke, since he uses it very often, and then smugly comments on how Kangman didn't respond to his post.
Yeah, it's almost like pivoting to a completely different topic entirely doesn't debunk the argument that Kangman was making, and thus isn't worthy of a legitimate response.
And you gotta love how pathetic it is that he included this random accounts tweet as well. It's as if he's saying, look guys, this no-name douchebag whose tweet didn't even garner a single like agrees with me. That means I won the argument.
Alright, that's enough dunking. It's time to give my final thoughts on the video.
Let's be honest. Is anybody really surprised that Birdman's video was this awful? The dude is a leftist, and the modus operandi of leftists is to twist and distort reality to push their ideology. That's literally all they know how to do. Hell, he slandered a dead man in order to downplay the left's reaction to his assassination, and heavily implied that he'd be alright with the murder of his political opponents. What am I supposed to say about that I haven't already said before? But even if you're forgiving enough to look past that, which you shouldn't be, it's unironically evil, his arguments against Kangman's points were dog shit. Most of his video consisted of him accusing Kangman of being a bigot while supporting his claims using the most flimsy evidence imaginable. The rest of the video was him attempting to claim the moral high ground by accusing Kangman of being a hypocritical liar, while making hypocritical arguments and lying about what he said. If that wasn't bad enough, Birdman just repeated these two arguments over and over and over again. I almost didn't make this commentary because I kept running out of ways to repeat the same counterpoints, but I think I did a decent job being creative with my wording, all things considered. Now, since I'm 99% sure that Birdman isn't gonna watch this video, and if he does, experience tells me that he'll be too stupid to properly digest any of my criticisms, I'll close this out by offering advice to you, the viewers, on how to avoid making a video this terrible. 1. Don't take your opponent out of context, nor put words in their mouth to make their position seem worse than it is. 2. Don't make claims or assumptions about your opponent if you have no evidence for those claims. 3. Define your fucking terms and justify your moral claims. 4. Don't double back on your principles just to own someone in a debate. 5. And most importantly, don't be a bloodthirsty psychopath who advocates for the deaths of your opponents. So, in summary, be a decent human being with an above room temperature IQ and you should be fine.
I'm Alex the Critic, and if you'll excuse me, I've got some turkey to eat. I'll see you guys next time.